Uh, so very good morning to all of you. Warm welcome to our guest, Mr. Harit Mohan and his team. Mr. Sarvadeep is with whom I was interacting and who helped me out in arranging this lecture. Big thank you to all of you, Mr. Harit Mohan. Responding to my query so promptly. Pleasure to in fact more students are from engineering department, but there are faculty across the university, so this is not really the matter here. It's about how to go about startups. So these faculty mentors that see here are particularly encouraged to be a leader and business. I'm sure it's going to be very useful for each one of us. It's my pleasure to inform that we have our head of institution of Amity School of Engineering and Technology, Manoj Kumar Pandey. We also have our head of R&D, Dr. Sujata Pandey. She is also heading the institution innovation cell, and
I think, ma'am, your voice is
say
a few please, Dr. Pandey.
All right, Dr. Madhuri, your voice is not clear.
Over to you.
voice
Request.
breaking a little bit.
All right. So in between, good morning. I am Dr. Manoj Kumar Pandey. Good morning to all, Mr. Harit Mohan, and thank you very much for sparing your valuable time this morning. And I appreciate your commitment amid these situations. You have decided to interact with our students. I'm sure that all our students will be very much beneficial out of your experience. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming being online this morning. Thank you. Please begin your talk, please.
Sure. I hope everybody can hear.
Harit Mohanji. Yeah, Mr. Harit, just a second. I would like Dr. Sujata Pandey, ma'am, to kindly say a few words on how Institution of Innovation Cell is helping our students reach the goal of becoming more of a job creators. Ma'am, over to you, ma'am.
Well, thank you, Dr. Madhuri. Sir, I would like to inform you that Amity University Institution Innovation Council, it started on the very first day when IIC was initially launched by MHRD. This cell is being headed by our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Balvinder Shukla. So we have around 100 students who have enrolled in this council, and we have around 50 faculty members who we call innovation mentors, and most of the faculty, they are also will be listening to you. So there are now and then MHRD, they announce different kind of events, and we ask all our students and faculty to hear. And in our campus also, we organize different events, some events, they are being directed by MHRD to be held in the campus, to organize those events. And we also start our organize our own events where we ask our students to participate. So the main aim of this Institution Innovation Council is to improve the innovation ecosystem inside our campus, so that the students, they first build a entrepreneurial mindset also through the innovations they do. They also get to hear from various entrepreneurs who often come to the campus and interact with the students. And in this way, the overall development of the students who are interested to have their own startups, own enterprise. They know all the requirements to start with their own. So for last about 1.5 years, we are working towards it. And we at Amity, we are very much committed to improve the innovation quotient of the campus, as well as we want to have student startups coming out of this campus. Well, thank you, sir. So I would like to thank you on behalf of all the members of Innovation Council that you have accepted our invitation and address the students and faculty on how to plan the startup and what are the legal and the other things that are required to do this. Well, sir, I request you to kindly carry on with your presentation, please, sir.
All right. Well, thank you so
Before
much.
we begin, again,
Okay.
Mr. Harit, I'm so sorry. Before you begin, let me introduce you to all the participants. Once again, a warm welcome to Amity University, Uttar Pradesh. I would like to tell you all a few lines about the speaker, Mr. Harit Mohan, is CEO and founder of Signicent. Signicent has branches in India and USA as well. As an IIT Madras 2008 postgraduate graduate student, he has always mentored a lot of research and technology businesses around the globe. He has given 12 years of his career solving problems and overcoming hurdles faced by research companies and institute. I would like to inform you all that recently he has been appointed as advisor to Institution Innovation Council at IIT Ropar. So thank you so much, sir. And now it's totally over to you, sir. Please, you could please begin. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Madhuri. And I'm excited that probably this would be, for this year's at least, this will be my first e-talk that I'm going to give. And probably COVID has wreaked havoc in many of our businesses and lives such much that we all are probably impacted. And before I start, I hope everybody is following the government's notifications on how to keep safety and how to stay safe. So having said that, I thanks Dr. Madhuri, Dr. Pandey, Dr. Sujata for such a wonderful introduction. And I'm really appreciating that Amity, despite all the lockdown, is still taking care of their students and faculty members. And they want to learn, and this this gist of growing despite lockdown is really appreciable. So without wasting much time, I'm going to go ahead and share my screens with all of you. So kindly confirm if you can start seeing my screen already. I have just shared my screen now.
Yeah, it is visible.
Okay, perfect. So as you know, as Dr. Madhuri has already introduced about me, I would just add to why this particular topic is always so exciting for me to present. Before we go ahead and start this formal presentation, I'll just like to start with a small story and how probably I started off my journey as an entrepreneur. So right after 2008, then when I passed out from IIT Madras and I had a chance to get appointed and get hired via campus. In a very big research house. And what happened was exactly 10 years back, what we are facing today was the same situation. Wherein there was a lot of economy dip, and we were kind of fighting the Great Recession that happened in 2008. I hope some of you, especially the faculty members, would remember that time. So I was fresh out of college. I got my campus job at that time in 2008, and it is very relevant that I share it with you because we are now suffering similar situations, at least not in the cause, but at least the end turn that we are still facing an economy downturn. So 2008, after a month of getting a job, and it was a very well paid job right from IIT. 15 of us, just after lunch we returned back as an interns that time in an organization, and we were asked to lay off. So we got pink slips right after lunch training, and the company said it's recession and we cannot continue paying all the new people, and we would we would like that probably, you guys should be dropped off. So that was the first time I got the flavor of so-called the world of commercials, the corporate world, that it all works on profits. Most of it is driven by demand and supply. And 15 of us, no matter, it was our first job. For a lot of them it was a dream job and things like that. And 12 years back this happened. Now, when I come to this situation in 2020, exactly after 12 years, I relate a lot of what has happened in 2020. I request a person to please mute. Thank you. So what happened was that that kind of was first hit that I thought probably self sufficiency or self dependency is something that we need to develop. But then I had no experience at that time, and I continued for a while in about 4 years with learning with different companies. And it's always said probably it's good to learn from others' mistakes. And the startups, no matter how bold they are, they should still be very confident that they should have first learned at least the basics of running a business or the area that they work on. At least that's what I believe. And since then, in 12 years, from hitting the rock bottom, not once but several times, we stand here today with about a team of 80 researchers who are working from India and US. We do businesses with 15 countries. Our 400 businesses are being served. We have been rated several times in our area, the top companies. So that's why I think if I share, what we did or what I did when we were running a startup, and of course IPR is something that we are practicing daily. So I think we could justify. And if there are any questions, what I would do is I'll take two stops in this presentation, 2 or 3 stops. Most of this presentation is really interactive. I'm not sure if we could hear each of your voice, but I'll give you like a small pause so to guess the answers to make it more productive. So let's go for the first half of the presentation. Let me just start with, what is an entrepreneur? What is a startup person? So there are a lot of definitions that you would, see, and the definitions that you would see in the books or, or in the places would say a lot of things. And probably the first thing that you need to become a startup is to have an idea or to have a solution to an existing problem. And you need to solve that, and you need to see it at the right time, at the right place to become an entrepreneur. In the last few days, I got a lot of calls from my juniors in college, in Kurukshetra University, at IIT, and several other startups are approaching us. So, for example, there are a lot of inventions that are happening around COVID-19, be it related to masks, be it related to anything. So we are getting now, several calls on how to before selling, because the time is less. If we see that there is an year from here that we have a startup around COVID-19, for example, they have to do it very quickly. And if they kind of go ahead and start, solving any problem and put the product without due protection with the IPR, without the IPR, they have the risk of getting copied. I had a call with Dr. J.K. Sharma yesterday from IIT Ropar, being an IIC advisor. So, for example, their professors have developed for a kind of a chamber which sterilized people, and they're getting a lot of calls. And we had a quick call yesterday with that professor that how probably we could help them and what could be a licensing agreement for that professor, so that they know that they are not being sub-licensed, further. So a lot of such queries are now coming up. So there are ideas related to COVID-19. There are inventors, which is in the form of our students or professors, and then there is an opportunity right now happening. So it's a hotbed for entrepreneurs to give up. What I realized was that probably entrepreneurs are just not those things. I remember when I started off this company with just 2 people, 8 years back, Signicent. I was, of course, the founder, but then a founder would be there for such companies, and I was handling the technical queries. I was making phone calls to my customers as well. I had no HRs at that time. I was doing hiring as well. I was kind of marketing, people to join a new organization, because one of the risks startups face is that there is no brand behind them if they are bootstrapping, especially. And they need to pitch and push every candidate that they come across that they should join their company. But then, last 8 years, things have changed. We now get at least 100 CVs a day, and now we are at a strong position to select what we want or whom we want to work with. So things change, and it has a due course of time. So I was doing that. I was, doing administration part. I was also an accountant for my company. Of course, I was not a lawyer, but I need to prepare all the agreements. I need to QC it because you do not have budget probably to do all those things, and hire one special person, for doing all that stuff. If my housekeeping person used to take a leave, I had no backup housekeeping, so I used to go back early in the office and even have swept my office with jhadu and all, so that when my team comes in, I have right kind of cleanliness in the office as well. So there are a lot of hidden and obvious stories, and everybody and would be doing so when they run in startup. So probably for me, entrepreneurs do become a superman kind of people, and the journey is actually not easy. And they need to go a lot of hardships. But then, even if there are chances that if you fail, the things that you learn in this years of startups are exceptionally well. No books, no textbooks, no somebody else's experience will tell you unless you start walking that path, yourself. So that brings us to key question: how to avoid that failure? How probably people who are now planning for a startup, or who are now thinking that should we do it? What's their approach, or what should be the key ingredients of such a good research or such a good IP? Probably if there are any people here, and we will start taking the inputs from here. So this is an interactive slide. So what I will do is, since you cannot open all the mics, people whose name starts with either A, B, or C alphabets, if some of you could like to unmute the mic and tell me what do you think on your mic, the key ingredients of a good research, just one word, and I'll give you, for example, some example over here. So for example, a well-defined problem statement could be the first ingredient. So what could be the second, third, or fourth such ingredient? People starting their first names with A, B, and C, if you would like to make a guess. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Skilled manpower.
Okay, skilled manpower. What else?
Empathy.
Empathy. All right. Anything else? People starting their name with DEF.
Customer segmentation.
Customer segmentation, right? So there are a lot of things that you guys have said. So as some of you have said, the first and important thing is the novelty behind idea. If especially you are going for IPR, that becomes very important. That how we should kind of come up. So the problem could be there, but you need to come up with novel approaches. Let me pick up a very simple problem. So if some of you recall how many of times, let's say if a table is not near us and we need to charge our mobile phone, I'm sure some of us have definitely tried to charge our mobile phones balancing it on the top of the charger. And if it, for example, like vibrates during that time, what happens? Your phone, of course, come down, and there are chances that it will break up. So that's a problem, let's say, that we are facing. So how we solve it then? The solution could be many. Of course, if this has been a face-to-face audience, I could have invited solutions. But if you think in your mind as I'm speaking, what could be an ideal problem? So people may say, we could, I don't know, prepare something of a table which is mobile. People could say something, we could build a magnetic thing which could hold our phones on the charger. So we came across a solution that why not just make a small hinge on the charger, and this hinge or this clip that you put on the charger could be mobile, and people, when they want to charge their phone, could just put in this hinge on the charger while they're charging. So so what novelty part is to find a creative clever solutions. In Hindi हम इसको जुगाड़ भी कहते हैं कई बार. So जुगाड़s are something which are very novel and should not be let go, and especially if you think it is tricky or clever solution, it has industrial applicability, it was not done something before. So these are the things that get are considered as not novel. Then of course the solutions has to be viable would mean that if I think my startup would start solving a problem, that if I like do a small chutki from my hands and I am telepathed from here to my university and nobody sees me in the lockdown, now it could be a solution to a big problem, but then is it viable at least at this time or not? So viability is something that we need to figure out, and it cannot just be an idea. There has to be a proper way from that idea to the practicality or to the prototype of it. So we need to look at the viability. It should have application for sure, and the application should be constructive towards the human race, and it could not be say destructive in most of the cases. Other thing is you need to be very importantly studying who are my competition. So a lot of mentoring sessions that I've done with a lot of universities in India, they kind of underestimate, and I don't blame them because I did the same problem. I thought probably I am the best, it's my problem, the solution that I am giving, no bloody organization would have thought of this. Even if they've thought of this, I can do it better. Trust me, it could have happened that they thought the same way, but then based on the feedbacks that they got from the client, they thought though it's a very important solution, but it is not feasible. Clients are not liking it. Customers are not, understanding the way I am understanding the solution, and you change it. So that liquidity in your approach or the flexibility on your approach has to be there, and the competition plays a very vital role in this part, and it is important that we should learn from the mistakes of competition, from the approaches of the competition, and we should not let them take lightly. Market readiness, experimentation, diffusion, and implementation are some of the other things. And of course, some of you said empathy, which is of course very important, and things like having a good team are always important. But these are some of the key ingredients I think could help a startup to go about it. So this is like textbook slide. Of course, you can read it yourself. And my favorite of it is, and once again, is working long hours. Probably, if you think that you are not the person who could spend in long hours, this could be a big problem. Because if you have investors fund, investors would expect your success for sure. If you have put in your own money, you are under another kind of pressure that I need success. So if you want to quickly capture the market, I realize that with all that, initially at least, you need to work long hours. Of course, long hours definition could depend from time to time. For example, personally, when I started this off, I remember I used to go on bed at least after 20 hours of working day, because I was playing a Superman role. I had to do everything else, everything on my own. So in mornings when the people are up, and I used to make HR calls, then technical research reports or demo parts or prototyping I need to do on my own with a very small team that I had, and which was unexperienced at that time. So this would of course require a lot of long hours, and you may not get paid for this at all. It may happen that you do not even have money to extract out for the first 6 months or first 12 months of your startup, and that's okay. There's an entire life to earn money. If you're working on your team, probably these are some of the things you may need to start ignoring, and there could be other people. For example, I had my friends from IIT who were in Germany, who were in US. They're buying cars. They were doing some good jobs. So that comparison would always come in. What important you would realize is this could be more, this pressure of comparison would also come from your parents. Of course, many parents are supportive these days, but there are a lot of times parents would start comparing their kids or the youngpreneurs, I would say, with the kids of others who are doing some jobs with MNCs. And sometimes I think colleges also in their advertisements show that our guys are placed in Amazon, Google, and blah blah blah. And though they are running incubation centers also in the same organization, but probably that never hits as much as it should to the social media as the placements channels does. And it's okay, because that's what majority of population would like to see. So these are some of the things that probably incubation centers or IICs should think, that if there are some success stories coming from IIC's part or e-cells in your college, they should be given a hell lot of branding internally, so that companies like them feel a lot motivated. So that's, and if you're already doing it, I'm sure that's wonderful. So cash flow become important. For every penny that you have, you need to spend it so judicially that maybe for 12 months you need to forget that there is some Flipkart or Amazon or Myntra to buy your own branded clothes. So again, part and parcel of an entrepreneurial job, and it's okay to kill your expectations. So my wife is also running a small business. I did the same thing. So we both shared that for 2 years we even forgot that we need to buy at least one pair of my favorite jeans or shirt or t-shirt. We used to cut cost at every single thing, and that's okay. You should be proud of it. Not many have guts to do it. So these are some of the things you would be looking across in, and you would need a mentor probably to help you that this is normal. So next we come in to the next question. How do we find an idea? Because that's another question I hear from a lot of startups. People want to do something, but they don't know where to start with. And so this is difficult to put it in a slide, but I'll just tell you how to find an idea and not what are the ideas that are there. So there is a difference. So people probably starting alphabets GHI, names with GHI, JKL. If there are first names from GHI, JKL, would you like to take a guess that how to find an idea? What could be the best ways to see if there is a problem that you would like to solve?
By identifying problems near us.
Mm-hmm. So could you repeat that, please?
So by identifying problems we are facing in our lives and try to find a solution for that. So
Okay.
that could be an idea. For example, like as simple a simple thing like opening a door. If automation comes into picture, that could be an idea.
Right. Okay. So observing possibly the problems or making it more comfortable, right? What else? Anything else?
I think just to join idea, the same thing. Usually, the idea comes from the problem that we are experiencing ourselves. If, for example, the society is not addressing on a particular topic that needs to be addressed as you're facing the issue, there is not a lot of improvement. I think that can be the area where the idea may come from.
Okay, got it. So yeah, so all these are very valid solution, but I would love to say the observation is the first and important thing. You should know what could be problem for somebody, maybe not for you, but somebody or and by en mass. So what you would say is a lot of people these days have aggregated players. For example, taxis were aggregated by Uber and Ola. They solved that, okay, there are taxis, people are traveling, let's aggregate them. So they don't own any taxi probably by and large, but then they have aggregated that taxis that were there and solved a problem. Of course, it's a huge debate. A lot of money has gone in. There are people who are saying they're still not profitable, but then the industry is still going on. So my point is, you need to observe. Oyo did the same with in aggregating the hotels. E-commerce industry did the same with aggregating the products, consumer products that we are using. So aggregation via apps is something in general very popular these days. Somebody aggregated the maids that are coming to our home. Somebody aggregated the doctors that are there via their apps. So this has become a trend. When I talk to a lot of startups these days, including we run, for example, a program in Chandigarh with TIE Chandigarh, wherein we voluntarily talk and find out young entrepreneurs between class 8th to class 12th. So we're going at schools and looking, and we did a 6 months program last year. The finalists, compete from Chandigarh chapter to US for all the TIE chapters. What I realized was from kids to the college guys that I'm mentoring right now already, and to a lot of other, being a charter member, I am guiding a lot of startups. What I've realized is people have started thinking that apps is the way that we should solve a problem. Manufacturing or industrial applicability, instruments like things have dipped a little. That's what I have started realizing. But that's okay. It all depends what our focus is, what are our passions. So we need to observe all such problems and need to do it. The other thing that I would like to add is, probably start reading books. Of course, I do not get time for this, and this part does not even hold true for me. Whenever I have time, I go to TED. I watch something known as Shark Tanks a lot. Shark Tanks is a serial. If you've not started watching it, or Elevator's Pitch is another. So they are available on YouTube, and also you can start reading books. You can start watching such series like Shark Tanks or Elevator's Pitch, and you will see how people look for ideas, and they are like real life problems. They're solving real life issues, and they're doing well in their businesses. Start surfing a lot, think and write journals. So if what I've also seen is, and I'm sure this would have happened with a lot of people, the minute you start getting a problem, क्या होता है कि हम भूल जाते हैं. अगर मेरे को रात को सोते के टाइम कुछ आइडिया आया, and the same is with my wife also. So when we start looking into problem, we make sure we ping it onto each other on WhatsApp, keep a notepad on it, so that that solution, that tricky idea, clever idea that we have in my mind right now will be forgotten tomorrow. So we need to kind of forget it, and we can of course forget it the next time we will be doing it. So that's something we need to kind of see and understand, that we should get that written somewhere. Socialize a lot. I started this part in my career a lot late, but I think this should have been started earlier. You need to talk to a lot of people, just not 4 or 5 of friends, just not the people you like or dislike. You need to socialize, especially with like-minded people. These are the people who will understand you. These are the people who will tell you the solutions that they have found, and probably you can, when talking to about your problem, you could find some solutions. However, a word of disclaimer, because we are also talking about legal helps to a startup, is whenever you're disclosing your ideas, make sure you have an NDA or something known as non-disclosure agreement in place with these guys, because no matter how close you are, if you're gonna tell about the entire business plan, there are chances they may copy it. But if you do not discuss it, you may not get the solution. So I think NDA is something that colleges can help or make readily available to their college kids or incubations or startups happening from Amity. They are the must-haves for startups before they start disclosing their ideas to vendors or investors or anybody. So they should have an NDA in place. If not, patent is ready right now. Okay, so this is then the ideation, creation, and diffusion curve. They are both important curves I've realized are very true. Let me first pick up the right side of the curve before with an example. So what this curve suggests is that for everything that we do, the diffusion of your technology, or how startups are being conceived by people, would go through this curve more or less, where are people who would adopt your technology first, then there will be people who would be the early adopters, and then the majority would come in, and then the people who would never like to switch to your technology. Let's take this and understand with an example. So if you remember 10 years back or a decade back, when we started off this e-commerce revolution, and of course you can retrospect as I talk about it. So there are people who started flip this e-commerce organizations, and we wanted to place our first orders. Let's say today we of course buy phones or buy devices on e-commerce websites, but 10 years, 12 years back, when let's say the first e-commerce website was launched, how many of you were comfortable the very first day you heard about this company to spend 10, 15, 20,000 from your debit card and start ordering from e-commerce websites? So the answer is not many actually, because people are afraid that पता नहीं product आएगा कि नहीं आएगा, fake product तो नहीं आएगा, हम कैसे अपना credit card या debit card details website पे दे दें. But then there were people which I call as risk takers, or initial innovators, adopters of the technology, that they went in a class, in your circle, or let's assume in your classrooms, in schools or colleges, wherever you were at that time, and actually went and bought from the e-commerce websites. जब दो लोगों का ऑर्डर आ गया, उन दो को देखा देखी और 4 5 6 7 लोग हमारे सर्कल में, हमारी क्लासेस में आ गए कि ओके यार, उनका भी तो आ गया है, वी आर गेटिंग अ 10% ऑफ आल्सो, रिटेल छोड़ के लेट्स गो एंड स्टार्ट बाइंग इट. सो दिस इज व्हाट वाज हैपनिंग. दे वर अर्ली अडॉप्टर्स ऑफ द टेक्नोलॉजी. देन जब 10 15 लोगों का क्लास में आ गया, या अपने फ्रेंड सर्कल में आ गया, say the next 30% of the people start jumping in, यार सबका ही आ रहा है, मैं ही थोड़ी इतना अनलकी हूँ कि मेरा ही नहीं आएगा. And then the early majority came into it, late majority came into it, and then there are still the people who think, yaar nahi yaar, I don't think e-commerce is ever good, the retail is retail, we should not go to e-commerce, and these are laggards. Trust me, most of the companies do not even care much about the laggards, because if they have covered the 84% of the curve, I mean, any startup or any company who has its product is considered as successful. So our challenge for any startup is to make sure that how they diffuse their products, and get into this early majority stage. It may take 2 years to 5 years, depending upon how your idea is. Has it been tried before, or are you solving a problem which is very clever in solution? Like Airbnb would have faced their own challenges. They wanted to rent out हमारे घर में जो खाली कमरे पड़े हैं, and then they become a big challenge for hotels chains also. So these are the ideas that takes time to diffuse. Another example is जब Nokia ने हमारे पास वो keypads वाले phone आते थे, and probably Apple launched their first time touch screen phones. All our parents said that नहीं नहीं नहीं, टच स्क्रीन पे नहीं जाना, they are not good, टूट जाएगा, खराब हो जाएगा, पानी पड़ जाएगा, etc etc etc. Now go back and ask our parents that 10 साल में I think none of our parents have keypads phone. 90% of 95% of them would have a touchscreen phone themselves. So they were the laggards, and then they came into late majority, and even those people have been captured for touchscreen technology. So that's how the diffusion of innovation would always happen. And especially when you're ideating, startups are ideating, what you would see is कि जैसे for example एक example लेते हैं इस curve को समझने के लिए. Let's say I pose a question कि चलो अभी लॉकडाउन खत्म हो जाएगा, लॉकडाउन खत्म होने के बाद let's assume ये 2 महीने बाद खत्म होता है. So after 2 months, what's the first tourist destination I want to visit? And you start discussing at your home or your friends and family. So क्या होगा, पहले सबसे ज्यादा relevant ideas आएंगे. Okay, so नोएडा में, अगर दिल्ली नोएडा में हम हैं, तो चलो let's go to some the nearest by hill station. जयपुर चलते हैं, उदयपुर चलते हैं. Of course, they're very relevant idea, but वहां पे बहुत बार लोग जा चुके होंगे. And then what would happen is, then all of a sudden people will stop dipping on ideas. People will not get ideas at all. So they will fall short of ideas. And then एक suggestion आएगा जो novel भी होगा, relevant भी होगा, उसकी quality भी अच्छी होगी. So when you're ideating, this has happened. Initially जब आपके पास ideas आएंगे ना, तो बहुत relevant होंगे, but वो बहुत obvious होंगे. And then you will start running out of ideas. You will fall short of ideas. And then you apply more of your gray cells in your brain. And then what happens is you get something which is more novel, which is more qualitative, and it will take time, as you can see on this curve. That's where you need to see, the ideas that I'm trying to solve are novel or not. So I take a short, first interim break before we, go into it. But are there any questions, probably from any of the audience till this point? And I would also ask how much time do we have to finish the next slide so that I can pace up accordingly, please.
Sir,
Yeah.
Sir, you can continue for another half an hour.
Okay, perfect. So that's more than sufficient time. All right. So what we were discussing. Any questions till this point, or should I go ahead? And everybody is following.
I have a question.
Yep.
So some ideas require customers to take the risk. For example, an idea may be novel and might be well applicable, but it requires the customers to take in risk. So what should we do in that situation?
So I think such kind of ideas are generally towards infomercials. I mean, we call it as infomercials, where you need to inform the your customers. So the marketing strategy has to be around information. So they're not obvious products. They need customers to take certain amount of risk while buying or subscribing to your ideas. And then you need to make sure that your infomercials or your things are very clear in approach, and you can in a very short and sweet time convey them what's the advantage behind your products, and then you need to see how rapidly or how quickly do they accept the solution that you're proposing.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, any other question? I can take one more and then I'll go ahead to the next slides. And of course, if you have more, we can take it at the end, but I can take one more till the slides that I've covered. Okay, so I'll just continue. So this slides actually will tell you the idea screening for startups. So on the y-axis I have impact and the x-axis I have time. So what you would see is, if something that is low on impact, मतलब उसका कोई impact नहीं है उस idea का, and time भी बहुत कम ले रहा है, so probably that is something that should not be of your priority. अगर उसका time बहुत ज़्यादा ले रहा है और impact भी बहुत कम है, so it is taking 6 months to develop, and you are not sure कि 6 months development के बाद भी लोग adopt करेंगे कि नहीं, you should absolutely discard or forget about that idea. Third is, अगर impact बहुत ज्यादा है और time भी बहुत ज्यादा ले रहा है, ठीक है, you should look for that solution, but that's good for your long term. But long term अगर आपको 2 साल आपके first idea को बनाने में लग रहे हैं, and do you think you have money to go for that long? So these are good for long term, but they not should be good for right away. For startups, it is very important that we should go for high impact ideas which can be done in a very small amount of time, let's say 6 months to max a year. And then these are the ideas startups should go for it, and they're the actionable ideation solutions that one should actually go for it. So you need to go back today and see the startups that you're thinking of, are they falling in this high impact, less time kind of category or not, and you should work on it accordingly. Next, this was an exercise from a different business. So let's assume once your ideation is done, you now need to name your business. So I'll for example tell you, when my daughter was born, forget about naming a company. Pandit ji ne bola ki you should go for an alphabet D. So D से बहुत सारे solutions आए, बहुत सारी नाम आए D से, Google किया, relatives ने पूछा and all. So what probably we thought was that if tomorrow I have to keep my daughter's name and she want to run a business, I quickly went to godaddy.com and checked for each of the name that was suggested, and wherever the domain was available, I then decided to bought that website first and then decided that will be my daughter's name. So the idea is, your names are something, business names or names are so important for your businesses that it should be very small in size. It should be very novel. People think कि हमें .in मिल रहा है, .com नहीं मिल रहा है, should we buy it? हमें तो India business करना है. I mean, that's okay, but I won't suggest it, because Google, the way it indexes, it does not differentiate between .coms, .nets or .ins. So first rule is, whenever you're naming your startups, go for a .com domain search. Do not see what are available on .nets and all, and make it memorable. So do a test, not with your friends and family, but at least with 15-20 people. So let's say if you want to open a fashion startup, go and suggest some names. Remember, it should be short. I would prefer it to in the range of 5 to 7 alphabets or characters only. But chances are you may not get it. Okay, but if you get it, it's very sweet. Make it very memorable. Research it that it should not be trademark of any other company. Companies like Signicent does that for a lot, because if you today name your company in a way that it was very obvious, and it is being trademarked also. So domains are not trademarked. I don't want to create a confusion, but the name of the company should be trademarked. So name of the company should be trademarked. They should have a valid domain names. These are the essential starting checkpoints for any startups. So you need to just check that such names are not available. Okay. And if you do not get a word, create some word. Okay, so there are ways to do it. You can use synonyms. You can do combinational words. For example, if there are companies which are on fashion, I mean, and there is ology as a term, is the art of doing it. So you can create a word, say fashionology.com. But then you need to check, अगर मैं ये 10 लोगों को बताता हूँ क्या उनको ये 3 दिन के बाद याद रहेगा कंपनी का नाम या वेबसाइट का नाम. So these are the things that you need to kind of check. So these are probably all the domains that I have bought in the time of businesses that I have done, suited to my or my wife's business. And so let's quickly take an exercise. So today you go to GoDaddy, and you find fashion business as fashionista.com, and you see a domain taken message. That .com is taken, but be very careful. That may say that .net is available, .in is available. I won't suggest personally to go with such websites. Then there could be fashioncrown.com. These are the things that are available, but they're too costly to buy for a startup. I won't suggest them. So they could 10,000 to lakhs, they are available in biddings. So for example, if you know the Facebook's history, I think it started with thefacebook.com, and then they dropped the word the later on, and they bought at a very heavy price, the domain facebook.com. So it was because Mark may not have money initially, so he bought the Facebook. Then he realized that this could confuse as he grew big with the actual owner of the facebook.com domain, and he went ahead and bought it, the complete and the unique domain name. So if you have watched his movie, I think the movie name was Social or something. It has been explained in the movie as well. But that's what I remember. And then there are things that are good. For example, I randomly cooked it up. Let's say I want to say trymefashion.com. Now trymefashion.com is available. Maybe it's a combination of 3 words, try me and fashion. Is it easy to remember? And they have $150 if you go for 2 years registration. And the combined price for 2 years generally, but the annual price generally for .coms is between 700 to 800 rupees a year. And of course, you start paying it on annual basis as you keep renewing it. So these are the domains that you would like to go ahead and start buying it when you are starting your own business, and when you're thinking for the names of your business. So this part is on the startups. And then one more thing before I go into IPR was that there are two kind of companies. Of course, there could be many, but I am talking about the commercial companies. There are 2 or 3 important types in India. One is a private limited company. Second is a limited liability partnership, LLP, which is Signicent also. And then there are sole proprietorships. I'll just give you a difference, very broad difference. And I'm not a chartered accountant or a CS, but I'll give you a very vague understanding. And of course, you should take a CA's advice or a CS or company secretary advice before you go ahead and do it. So private limited and LLP requires it more than 1 people to be in your board, to be in the founders to do it. And if let's say you are just a founder, and you want a company still to be a private limited or LLP, I think currently the rules requires, or at least when I registered it, the rules require, and people how they do it, they at least add 1 family member just to make it 2. But of course, they become the silent members, and you become the key founder. If there are, of course, 2 or 3 people starting a startup, then this should not be a problem. 2 or 3 of you could go for a private limited or a LLP. Both have their own terminology. For example, in LLPs or in partnership companies, you become partners, while in private limited companies, you generally are known as directors. Legally, of course, the rules are same, everything is same. It does not affect much by and large your businesses, even if you go for partnership, LLP and private limited. But the behind the rule is LLPs gives you most of the advantages that a private limited would give you, and are a little lenient in the terms of compliances. So if you are starting with a company right now, I think LLP is something that you should look for, because they're a little less in compliance. The advantages more or less remains the same. You get little taxation advantage as a company. But then, as I said, I'm not a CSCS, so you can look for more legal opinion towards it. But LLP, for me, if I have to decide, I'll keep LLP as first, private limited as second, and partnership as third. And of course, if you just want to go solo, the fourth is sole proprietorship. So these are the hierarchy that you may need to go ahead with. Some people would find private limited as first, and LLP as second, and private partnership as third. and for sole proprietorship at fourth. So that could be the second obvious choice. So that's how you can constitute a company when you want to do it. It generally take 10 to 15 days, as I assume, for all the documentation work. And I have a checklist of some of the numbers, PAN numbers, TAN numbers, GST numbers, etc. that you need to do. I'll run it across. But before, and that's the last part of this presentation. But before we, finish this, let me talk about IPRs. So uh, one of my friends, for example, called me about a few months back. He was a friend from IIT, and of course, he has been with me in school since my schooling time. He was working with a Pune-based robotics company, and what happened was he was developing something in the space of robots. And what happened was he left his very well-paid job in Pune, and it's a really well-paid job from his IIT placements. He wanted to do this startup, and he gave up that job. He jumped 2 years into it. He developed a prototype. He tried a hell lot to sell it to a lot of logistics warehouses. He went to malls, and he said to a lot of warehouses that this could help you. People showed interest. He gets some money checks, some promises that were of course not completed. So he kind of lived an entire startup entrepreneur life that he was expected to it. 2 years after, he took a hard call that okay, I don't think it's clicking. I have social and family pressure. I need to still feed my family. There are expectations from parents. There are expectations from lot of people who are dependent upon me. After 2 years, he thought I'll drop an idea and I go back to the job main time, and this could go side by side. But then side by side is side by side. Most of the people, when they think that ideas or startups can be done side by side, most of them either need to jump to it later on full time, or they end up abandoning it. Personally, I think if you are in a such situation, you need to take a call that when you want to jump in from your jobs to that business, but it has to happen soon. So to his idea, what happened was he kind of abandoned it after 2 years, and he was not able to do it. 2 years have passed. What happened was all of a sudden, after abandoning his company, 2 years after that, he got a call from Flipkart. And Flipkart said, guy, we were just, our team was looking into Googling into it, and we found your company's website, and we want to meet you. So this guy was amazed that यार जब मैं कर रहा था इतनी मेहनत तब तो कोई कॉल आया नहीं, तब मेरा प्रोडक्ट बिका नहीं, and now all of a sudden I'm getting a call from Flipkart, and they want to do business with me, they want to buy the technology from me. He called me up and said यार अब क्या करूं, क्योंकि मैं प्रोडक्ट लेके फ्लिपकार्ट के पास गया, they have huge stack of money. The minute I showed my product, they may say कि हमें वो प्रोडक्ट नहीं खरीदना है, ठीक है, but once I disclose them, they have money, they have talent, they can easily copy it. I'm doomed. अब मैं क्या करूं? I do not have any IPR right now. When I get my first sales order from a big company who has money, who has talent, and I have the technology, and you take an technology which is not protected with IPR to such big companies, they can easily copy it without even letting you know. So they may reject on your face that okay, we don't need it, but they can order the same product in their R&D labs, and they have all the talents, and they can get done with it in maybe a month's time or 2 months time, because they have all the resources available. So I suggested that probably now, before going for a meeting in a week's time, you need to now file an IP or a patent for it before you go ahead and meet the Flipkart people. So we filed very quickly in a week's time a provisional application before he went ahead and had the meeting in the Flipkart. So that's the importance of IPR. There's another case. One of the person from IIM, approached us. He was working on a wheelchair for these paralytic people. This chair has capability of moving up and down the stairs. So he had the same problem. He was called by a news channel, a business news channel, probably CNBC or something, and he wanted the news channel wanted him to pitch that particular invention of his on the news channel. So I got another panic call from this guy, ex-IIM guy, that oh yaar, I have a show coming up. मेरे को पता है कि मेरे पास पैसा नहीं है, मेरे पास बहुत अच्छा आइडिया है. अब मैंने उसको न्यूज चैनल में बता दिया, यूट्यूब में रिकॉर्ड होगा, हर जगह पब्लिसाइज होगा, मुझे पता भी नहीं चलेगा कौन इसका कहाँ वर्ल्ड में कॉपी करेगा. तो मैं क्या करूं? So he suggested, go ahead and go for a patent for it before you come out and disclose into public. So IPR come into rescue. They are the first friendly rights for startups, for any company, for professors that are working in the universities before they step out and commercializing their ideas into the market. So there are various ways. Patents is for technology. Trademarks are for the names. Let's say trademark could be the name of the company. Say Signicent is trademark. If I run another startup names PatView, which is a software for patents, we have trademarked it. So the names of your company actually goes under trademark. Copyrights are for contents. If you are doing content writing, कोई शायर हैं, कोई poets हैं, they are writing blogs, they are writing software codes, all that drawings के कुछ startups हैं, they are doing artistic works, dramas, plays, stage shows, all that content related things are what goes under copyright. And then there are trade secret. Trade secrets basically means कि ना हमें patent कराना है, ना हमें copyright कराना है, हम सिर्फ कंपनी के अंदर या 2-4 लोगों के अंदर secret रखेंगे, जैसे कोका कोला ने किया हुआ है. They have never patented the composition of Coke, but then the chances are, if it gets leaked out, you have no protection beyond the agreement that you would have signed within your company or within your partners. So that's the trade secret form of IPR. Geographical indications are basically on geographical rights, like जैसे कोल्हापुरी चप्पल हो गई, that they are for all the Kolhapuris as a geographical area making those things, and then there could be Assam tea. So all the Assam tea manufacturers have this geographical indication that they can use in front of it, and there are numerous examples, Hyderabadi biryani and things like that, which are cities associated with a particular kind of product, and they get geographical indication towards it. And then the registered designs, so if there are designs and not the entire part of the technology that you want to protect, you could go for design patents or registered designs. So let to just summarize, patents are for technology solutions, trademark is for branding in companies, copyrights are for contents, trade secrets is for keeping the things within the company, geographical indications are city or state associated things that you're doing, and these are mostly with government, no private people can do it as per my understanding. And then you have to register designs. Let's do a small exercise, and as I catch a breather also, and sip some water. I would like you to probably guess. So people starting their names from maybe G to L, you can guess this slide, the first slide. So what kind of IPR would this fall under? McDonald's.
Trademark.
Okay, next one, please. The 5-point someone, the book.
Patent.
Copyright, because it is content, right? Then this camera, the entire part of it.
Registered
design. Why it cannot be design is because, of course, अगर मैं सिर्फ कैमरा की बाहर की aesthetics की बात कर रहा हूँ, डिजाइन की बात कर रहा हूँ, then it's design. If I'm talking about the functionality of it, ये कैसे lenses, apparatus, apertures, focuses, उसमें flashlights embed है, उनका क्या function है, how it blur, for example, the background. Then we're talking about the entire technology. Then it should fall under patent. Okay. Next, this secret formula.
Trade secret.
Trade secret. Next, go to the next slide, and then people from M to Z, starting from M to Z. This device to sharpen the mustache. What would this fall under?
Patent or
Patent. Okay, because this is a device. So what you also pick from this is key patents के लिए यार, it's not always important that you should have very high funded research labs to do it, and you need to fund it aggressively. It could be clever solutions, as you have been talking throughout this presentation. Next, this painting. Copyright, because it's a painting. This phone.
Patent. Registered design.
Designs or patent, depending upon again what we're talking. And this logo.
Trademark.
trademark.
So now what is clear is that you need not mix. So IPR में जब हम पहली बार किसी से बात करते हैं ना, तो वो ये बोलते हैं हम अपने ट्रेडमार्क का ना कॉपीराइट करा के पैटेंट ले लेंगे. Okay, so they are mixing apples with oranges to make pineapples out of it, which is not at all true. Everything has their own coverage. Every right has its own protection. And ऐसा नहीं कि एक स्टार्टअप को सिर्फ पैटेंट चाहिए. जो उनके लोगोज हैं, let's say if I say the word I am loving it, what brand could you associate this with? I am loving it.
McDonald's.
McDonald's. So I never said the word McDonald's. You guessed it. That's the power of trademarks. So these taglines, these trademarks are all falling under trademarks. Let's try another tricky one, and I'm just gonna recite a jingle. Let's say if I make a jingle, and please listen carefully. Let's say if I say ting ting ting, what's the brand that you associate with it? I'll repeat. Ting ting ting.
Nokia.
Or anything else? Oh,
Britannia.
Britannia, exactly. So see, I never said a word. I never said a jingle. You just heard a sound, random sound, and you related to the brand. So these are all the marks that companies leave it on your brain, leave it on our minds, so that we can associate whenever we hear a sound, a phrase, the name of the company. So all these are under trademark category. They are trademark of these companies, and that's why the power of trademark would come in. And the patents are all about technology. They are, of course, the bread and butter the startups or researchers would like to go on. And then if somebody's into content, they are good artists, they are good designers, they are good software writers or code writers. Copyright is something they should go in for. Okay, having said that, so then the first check that you need to do is where to search. Like, how do I know if my idea is novel? Jo main kar raha hu, is it novel or not? Where to search with it? So there are websites, of course, Google hum sab karte hain. So what I would suggest is go to Google Scholar, go to Science Direct, go to websites like IEEE Explore, Google Patents, and things like that, so that these are the websites you should look for scientific journals and patents. Agar hame apne level pe, of course you need a professional company to validate it. But then if you do not have budget, if you think 15, 20, 25,000 is too much for your startup to pay initially, and you want to do a due diligence on your own, go ahead. These are the websites. They are free websites, that we do. Of course, commercial companies use, for example, when we do for a lot of universities outside India that we work for, a lot of clients that we work for, a lot of law firms that we work for, we used Questel, we used Derwent. They are having subscription for hundreds of patent geographies, because when examiner is going to check your patent, they are not gonna give you a sympathetic or a turn up कि अच्छा यार आप startup थे, आपके पास पैसा नहीं था, चलो कोई बात नहीं, आप Google पे करके आए हो, मैं grant कर देता हूँ. So law does not work like that. They would need, and it may happen is that by then you've already wasted couple of years of your time, and you would discover that you were working on an idea that was not even novel. So it's very important that novelty checks, patentability check, or this check is done, especially if you want to create a novel business. If you're creating a repeat business, so businesses are of two types. One is, I'm doing something extremely new, and then there is something that is well known. For example, I'm opening a saloon shop, a restaurant, or things like that, which does not require any patent. Of course, the name of the restaurant would require a trademark, may require a trademark, but it may not need a patent. So you need to take a call. If your business is innovative side, you should go for a patent for it. And you should protect it before it's too late. And these are the free websites that are recommended for the first use, and probably to the IIC, Innovation Council. Probably this is something I'm sure they must be telling their incubators also. If they're telling it, it's wonderful. So these are the free tools that are available, and this will give you at least 30-40% confidence level than just searching on Google alone. Okay. So these are eSpaceNet is a patent website, Google Scholar is a research, Science Direct is a research. So right side both are patents. So Google has another engine, Google Patents, where you could search for patents around the globe, whichever are covered there. And eSpaceNet is a European patent office website. They do have very good coverage. These are something that you could look for patents or IPR part of it. Then there is something, how to locate white spaces. So bugs and solutions are basically a matrix that we generally create. For example, we work, as I said, with a lot of professors and PhDs. There are at least 6, 7 world-renowned universities from US and Australia that we are currently, handling their IPR activities from here in India. What we have told them is that you should identify as a student or as a startup the bugs that are there in an area and then the solution that are there. So if you recall the problem of mobile phone chargers sitting at the top of the charging head, and it is getting dropped down when it vibrates. So these are all several problems. So when I'm developing a technology around it, I may have several bugs, the shortcomings of each of these things, and then there are several solutions towards it. So what you need to do is you need to track this. So, for example, the circle or the size of the circles represents the available solutions on Google or Google Patents. So, of course, then there are crowded spaces like this. So, example, problem one has been solved a lot, and you would see there is no white space left for us to go and innovate, but there are some less crowded spaces. So these are the areas which are open to innovation, and you should look for such analysis and look for solutions in this area. I remember when I was in IIT, my professor gave me 1.5, 2 months before I started my thesis work, just for read probably thousands of articles that are there, to find out all possible solutions, all problem that are existing in the area that we were trying to solve, and then come out with spaces or the problem statement that are very specific that I want to solve. Unfortunately, I didn't have idea to go for patent. I published my research in 2 years with Science Direct, which is an Elsevier's continuation. So I published my paper at impact factor of 5 or something at that time, and get done with my thesis and got my degree. Now I regret a little that probably if I worked so hard in my lab, I did as a researcher too much thing. Probably it would have been even better if I could have gone for a patent instead of publishing it in a research paper simply, because patent would have stopped me from using others. If I put it as a journal article, it's basically a social welfare that you're doing. You are giving science for common use. You cannot try and say हमने एक paper publish किया है, उसके लिए हम पैसे मांग रहे हैं, if you are using my paper in your products. On the other hand side, patents is a commercial term. If you put a patent for your research, you can ask for money if a company of another university is using it. You can license out your patent. Of course, that's altogether a different series. I was invited at IIT Jodhpur just before this lockdown happened in Jodhpur, and we presented with the help of the CPAM, the CIPAM, this lecture series in IIT Jodhpur, where we talked about after innovation has happened, once a startup has had a technology, how they can commercialize that technology. So that's another hour of series. Probably, if you're interested, we could touch that sometime later. But this is then the white spaces that we're talking about. Then coming to the last phase, because we are running, close to the time. So this is, I would suggest to a startup, probably you can take notes of it if you would like to. So the other first steps, build your, check your name of the company, check the domain names as you have stated. Make your emails, websites, domains. Check if you have. Let's assume Try Me Fashion is what we were taking as an example. So you make sure your FB, Insta, Twitter, or social networking account has the same social name available. So it's just not कि मैंने को आज ये नाम अच्छा लगा मैंने रख लिया. It has to be checked at domain names at GoDaddy for .com. It need to be checked for social handles like FBs, Instas, Twitters, or LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not there, but that's important too. Then you need to check if you can, find the same name on the registrar of companies or the ROC database of Government of India, that you would get that name in your company. That's probably the later step, because these are more difficult. These are global competition. This is just for India. And then you need to decide, should I go for LLP, private limited, or a partnership, or a sole proprietorship? Then you make your deeds, accordingly of whatever entity you decide to make. Next, you open your current accounts in your banks. You get your PAN numbers, TAN numbers, GST numbers. You get your digital signatures, and digital signatures are not my signature image. They are encrypted messages. Often people confuse digital signatures with a photo of my physical or a hand signature, which is not true. And then, of course, if you're a startup, you should register today at msme.gov.in, because you get some startup advantages these days. Protect your IP, trademarks, and patent as soon as you're done with all the formalities, because this will help you in long-term running of your business. So just to rewind, names, websites, socials, incorporation deeds, current accounts in banks, whichever bank you want to go with, TAN, and GST numbers. These are some of the mandatory numbers you should have today. Digital signatures, register, and this website, protect your IP. So these are, the things that should include when you're, pitching it to the decks. Of course, this could go. This is just a last slide. So when I did it, this is very close to my heart because this is what I did. And when I started off Signicent, this is my kharcha file, that I expenses file, that the minimum budget that I had in say a period of 6 months to a year. So today, there are a lot of things thanks to universities like Amity, who gives a lot of incubations, and they help you cut the cost. But to help you appreciate Amity's or universities' efforts to help you in cost, I'll help you with this slide. Website and emails, I think you have to still do yourself, which may cost anywhere between 10 to 20,000 in budget. This is one time, and this is a non-avoidable budget. You host your websites. That's in your annual plans. It may cost you annually 10,000. You go for a lot of incorporations like DEN, PAN, TAN, and GST. The commercial cost could go for registrations for about 25 to 30,000, depending on whom you hire. You hire at least a couple of interns. I've assumed you not pay them more than 7,500 a month in internship or in their stipend. So that counts for annually 1,80,000. ट्रस्ट मी यू विल स्ट्रगल अ लॉट जब आप लोग इंटर्नशिप के लिए जाते हो. यू थिंक यार हमें कंपनीज 20-25 हज़ार दे दे, बट व्हेन यू रिवर्स द टेबल एंड यू सिट ऑन द ऑपोजिट साइड, यू डू नॉट हैव मनी, यू वुड एक्सपेक्ट कि हमसे इंटर्न सिर्फ 7-8 हज़ार ले लें, उससे ज़्यादा हमारा बजट नहीं है. सो यू नीड टू लुक फॉर पीपल जो आप भी शायद एक्सपेक्ट ना करो, वो आपको किसी को कन्विंस करना है करने के लिए. देन एज्यूम यू हैव 2 or 3 full-time employees, which just takes a salary of 25,000 a month. Once again, जब अगर मैं फ्रेशर से पूछता हूँ कि आपकी सैलरी एक्सपेक्टेशन कितनी है, तो 50,000 60,000 से कम किसी की आजकल होती नहीं है. ऑन द अदर हैंड साइड, व्हेन यू आर गोइंग फॉर हायरिंग as a startup, you would not expect more than 25,000 a month, because that in itself goes for 9 lakhs as an expense to the startup in the first year. You have stationery printing, letterheads, business cards, your banners, etc., etc. Your CA get paid, your CS get paid, because remember, you cannot have them full time, so you hire them on a yearly basis. You hire them on a contractual basis. Then you protect your patents and your trademarks, etc. That's another thing. If you're traveling, then keep some fuel bills. This goes to about 13 lakhs 20,000 a year. So startups who are starting at this time, this is for your 1 year's budget with the assumptions that I've taken. You should have that money, or you should have at least half of that money when you're starting up, and assume कि 6 months में आपके profits आने शुरू हो जाएंगे या कुछ sales होनी शुरू हो जाएंगी, so that you can recoup. By the way, this is just the non-avoidable monies. There are a lot of avoidable monies that are on this slide, which includes if you were not fortunate, because when I started my company, there was no incubation that was there. I had to buy my own furniture, which included chairs, tables, internets. I was giving rent in Chandigarh. I modified my office to make some cabins. I installed some security cameras so that I know everything is secure. I installed biometric systems in my company. We bought 4 laptops. Each of them were like 25K at that time. Of course, this would have jumped by now. We bought coffee machine. Trust me, if you do not have coffee, nobody would work in your company. Okay, so this is something mandatory, and you need to have thanda pani for them, all the housekeeping, ACs installed, HR activities, IT support. This is another 9 lakhs for the first year. LED screen projectors and all. Now, all these 9 lakhs, most of the the incubation centers that are coming, say Amity would have their e-cells and incubation centers. So basically, they would are covering this 9 lakhs of a very crucial cost, and you should be always thankful because I was never getting this opportunity. So to divide it on a pie chart, so there are non-avoidables in the forms of websites and all, which you should have. That is 13 lakh 20,000, 9 lakhs in furnitures and the things, internet services, etc. Which is probably incubation centers today provide. And I'm keeping a small buffer because I'm not sure if I've covered everything. As a smart businessman, I'll keep a small buffer of 4-5 lakhs. So this accounts for somewhere around 20 to 27 lakhs a year for a typical IT service. This is IT or knowledge processing outsourcing kind of estimate. And it is highly subjective. It may vary from industry to industry as written in the disclaimer at the bottom. But that's what the budgets and the hard fact live in. Before we end up, जो major question आता है वो आता है कि do we have that budget? क्या हमारे पास पैसा है? वो पैसा कहाँ से आएगा? अगर 50,000 1 लाख कोई इन्वेस्टर दे रहा है कि उससे मेरी कंपनी चल जाएगी, फॉर मी द आंसर इज नो. सो बजट कहाँ से आएगा? द आंसर इज कि हम इन्वेस्टर्स के पास चले जाएंगे. ठीक है, आप बिल्कुल जाओ, बट यू हैव टू मेक अ ह्यूज एंड बिग गुड पिच एंड यू नीड टू शेयर देम वेरी गुड नंबर्स टू हैव देयर मनी. If you're thinking to bootstrap means कि मुझे खुद के अपने पैसों से करनी है. I do not want investors. At least that's what Signicent or I did. Then you need to have some savings, maybe 4-5 lakhs to start with, and then you need to be sure that जो आप products या जो आप services sell कर रहे हो, they should start paying you in 6 months time, or you are planned to doom. Third is parents. Parents पैसा देंगे. I don't know. Every parent is having their own thought. So पेरेंट्स के पास पैसा है या नहीं. मैक्सिमम लोग जब मैं ये फिजिकली ऑडिटोरियम से पूछता हूँ तो 70 to 80% से कि नहीं यार पैसा नहीं है. एंड देन आई एम आस्किंग देम कि यार एक बार प्लीज पूछना घर जाके कि शादी के लिए आप लोगों की कितना पैसा घर वालों ने अपने पीएफ अकाउंट्स और ग्रेचुटीज और आई डोंट नो एफडीज में रखा हुआ है. एंड देन ऑल ऑफ अ सडन दिस नंबर स्टार्ट लुकिंग वेरी स्मॉल. Okay, very small. So point is that is a cultural problem. People and families do have money, at least most of them by and large, but they do not want to spend it on businesses. They want to keep it for a 3-day or 5-day marriage bonanza. Of course, it's personal and I cannot comment, but what I'm saying is there is money, there are intentions. It's about how much confident you are, or your parents are, or your investors are in giving you that kind of money. Before I then conclude, so I'll just give you a small story. I remember when I was starting Signicent, what happened was a funny story I always tell in all my talks. तो होता क्या था कि I am a night person, I work a lot. So जब Dr. माधुरी ने हमसे time suggest किया, I suggested and requested probably if we can do it at 11:30 because I work late at night, I sleep late at night, and it's very difficult for me to start 9 a.m. Because of the US is our key geography that we work in. So what we decided was that we would probably go ahead, and I used to work at night. So what I did was that I used to work in night, and हमारे घर में maid आया करती थी. तो maid के साथ ऐसा होता था कि मैं उस टाइम पे स्टार्टअप अपना सिग्निसेंट का कर रहा था, तो मैं जनरली लेट सोता था. तो मेड 9-10 बजे घर आती थी. तो शी यूज्ड टू टॉक टू माय मॉम कि यार आंटी जी आपका लड़का इतना बड़ा हो गया, इसको कोई नौकरी नहीं लगती क्या? सब जब आती हूँ मैं सोया हुआ होता है, जब आती हूँ मैं सोया हुआ होता है, 10 बजे आती हूँ तो सोया हुआ है, 9:30, 10, 11 बजे आती हूँ तब सो रहा होता है. And my mom used to listen to it, and कभी कभी मम्मियों को बुरा लग भी जाता था. That's okay because they are caring for us. And she talked to me once कि यार ये ऐसा है, अब तो मेड भी कहने लगी है, कब तक तुमने ये स्टार्टअप खेलना है, साल हो जाएगा. Of course she was supporting me, she was a government employee, so we were sure कि bills are getting paid. I was not at risk there. एंड एक दिन क्या हुआ कि मेरी कुछ क्लाइंट कॉल थी in US, which was in 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning. So what I did was कि I was awake early in the morning. I was working from 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the morning, and मैं 9 बजे सो गया. तो उस दिन क्या हुआ कि उस दिन जो मेड थी वो 9 बजे नहीं आई. उस दिन मेड दोपहर को 2 बजे आई, और मैं क्योंकि 10-11 बजे सोया तो मैं 2 बजे भी सो रहा था. तो फिर उसका मतलब पेशेंस खत्म हो गया. तो उसको लगा कि मैं 9 बजे 10 बजे भी सो रहा होता हूँ, मैं दोपहर को 2-3 बजे भी सो रहा होता हूँ, सो आई एम ऑलवेज स्लीपिंग. and she took a job कि उसने जाके पूरे सोसाइटी में बोल दिया कि भैया हैं उनकी जॉब लगवानी है. And I feel it funny that she become an HR professional or HR service provider to an IITN, and she was helping an IITN get a job at that time. So that's how the journey of a startup would be. So thanks a lot. I think I've taken a couple of more minutes than my allowed time. But if there are any questions, we can take it. And I'm done with the formal presentation. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I have a little bit of question. It's a small one. I'd like to point to one of the slides that was discussed previously on the IPR backslides.
Okay.
Yes, as you yes, we had the opportunity to listen to some of your experience and very interesting stories that you took as an example. So I would like to refer to the big companies you mentioned about Coca-Cola to not worry about the patent, something like that. So my question is, should the IPR concept be a very huge deal only for smaller companies other than big tech or big other companies? Maybe because of they can, with no much difficulties, get the problem out of hand, maybe due to the weights in the market or the heavy presence in the market. So what's the trend? Do they have to worry about that? Maybe they did take care of this earlier at the early stage, but what's the trends between bigger companies and smaller companies? Should they be worried also about that?
Yeah, so I would answer them. So for me, IPR is critically important for both the companies. So for example, companies like Apple, Huawei, they are very big companies, but they are amongst the top filers in the world. So they file patents, and smaller companies file it for a purpose because they are so small. They do not have money. The bigger sharks could easily eat the small fish in the pond unless they do not have patent protection. You are very liable, that you won't even know when you got copied very easily. So I think it's equally important. I won't say that it is more important for either of those. So I'm thinking if you want to go commercial, no matter what's your size, IP is something you should never ignore.
Yes. Thank you.
Hello.
Yep.
Sir, if I had filed a trademark or patent or anything in India, would that be liable in that whole world?
No.
Like,
no. So I would answer that. If you have any follow-up question, or should I answer it? Yeah, go ahead. If you want to complete your question.
yes, sir. I'm having a question.
Okay.
Sir. So, like, if you're saying this, sir, if I'm having a XYZ company in India, I'd registered that with uh, for the patent for everything, and someone copied that from outside that India. Like, how could I manage that thing?
Right. So that's a very good question. So see, patents, trademarks, they are geography specific rights. By what does that mean is ki if I am a startup in India and if I'm filing an Indian application alone, I cannot stop a US person to use it, sell it, or manufacture it in US. So that's why IP, when you expanding, could become a little costly affair also. But that's very important because if you want to sell something up, you should know probably which countries you want to protect it in. So any country that you're not protecting, it's open to be misused in those countries for sure. And same goes, but what happens is with trademarks is a little different. For example, see, Google plays a critical role. If I have protected Signicent today, I have a corporation in US also, where I put it as Signicent LLC. Now, if I'm not in Europe, but I have put in so much money to it, so much branding to it, but probably European companies will not pick up the same name. But by law, I cannot stop them if they use it. But since I've blocked the .com, they may not like to go into such areas. But as I said, they are totally geography specific rights, and you need to protect it in multiple countries.
Then, sir, if I'm expanding my company to some XYZ company, so I have to register according to their laws.
Yes. And for patents, you need to take this call. initial part of your thing. So अगर आपको same technology India में भी use करनी है, same technology, let's say Germany is your client, Germany is your market, आपको 1 साल के अंदर अंदर ये डिसीजन लेना पड़ेगा. So you cannot patent say in India in 2020 and 5 साल के बाद मैं जर्मनी कराऊं, because that is not allowed in law. It has to happen within 12 months for the same technology. Else क्या होगा कि क्योंकि patents की term 20 years होती है, तो मैं इंडिया से 20 years ले लूंगा, 2020 से 2040. अगर मैं फिर 2025 में जर्मनी में करता हूँ तो मुझे 20 साल और मिल जाएंगे, विच विल मीन 2045 तक. फिर मैं चाइना उठा लूंगा 5 साल के बाद तो 2050 तक. So this becomes evergreening of technology, which is not allowed in patent laws. So what that means is you get 1 year before, after filing of your first application, wherever you want to file it. As an Indian inventor, the Indian application would be the first one. And then within 1 year, you need to take a market research call done that you want to do it in which all countries. अगर मान लो आप नहीं कर पाए, ये period miss हो जाता है, then you need to file a fresh application with a fresh technology. You cannot use the same old technology in filing in Germany in this case.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm Nidhi Jain Mishra from the fashion department. So supposing I find a project on say Alibaba, which I feel is very interesting and could be used in India. It's not in use in India so far. And can I get it patented in India?
Right. So so that's not possible, because if you could kindly mute, I can hear my echo. I just like to answer it. Thank you. So so no, no. Why no? Because when we check for novelty, remember if I was telling you about this site where you could search. So what law says is in IPR that when you want to yeah, this one. So when you need to write, and this is in continuation to the previous question that was asked on geography specific rights for IP. So while they are geography specific rights, but when we search or when we determine the novelty of an invention or of an idea, we need to do a global search. So what does that mean is that the rights are geography specific, but the search is not restricted to that geography. So if a technology is there in US, I cannot just use that technology and say India में मैं patent करा लेता हूँ, because India में तो किसी ने की नहीं है, because that is considered as prior art, that is considered as public information for all the countries. Else अभी क्या होगा कि अगर मैं ये नहीं करता हूँ, उसका disadvantage क्या है कि today I go to all the fashion designs of let's say Gucci or Zara, and I जहाँ जहाँ उनके inventors के नाम है, मैं काट के वहाँ पे अपना नाम डाल के इंडिया में फाइल करता जाता हूँ और मेरे को पैटेंट मिलता जाएगा, which is of course, as you would also understand, is not possible. So that's why I said the searches has to be done globally, while the rights that you get would be nationally.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any more questions?
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, can we get a patent on a thought that we have? Like it's not sure that it would work, but like if we just have it in our mind, it can work.
Okay, so by definition, no, ideas cannot be patented. जैसे मैंने example दिया था कि मैं ऐसे क्लैप किया मैंने अभी, और आइडिया इस कि मैं अभी आपके साथ आके आपको इस चीज क्वेश्चन का आंसर वहीं बैठ के करूं, बट आई एम नॉट टेलीपैथिक. मैं मेरे यहाँ से मैं ट्रांसपोर्ट नहीं कर सकता. सो दिस इज एन आइडिया, बट दिस इज अ वेरी वेग आइडिया. आई नीड टू हैव सम सॉल्यूशन टुवर्ड्स इट. सो आइडियाज cannot be patented. They need to be into some kind of prototype. But होता क्या है generally, if you can visualize the path at least, कि चलो ठीक है, it's not that vague of an idea. I can visualize the path कि मैं इस स्टेप से, you're so experienced that you can start visualizing the path कि okay मैं ये करूंगा, ये करूंगा, ये करूंगा, ये करूंगा, तो उससे मैं यहाँ पहुंच ही जाऊंगा. But मैंने भी किया नहीं है, but I know for sure कि I'll reach it. So people use that kind of play, and they still go ahead and file the patent. But examiner may ask you that if he asks you on an interview during the examination that you need to tell it, then you need to tell it how would you patent it, or how would you make it possible, or by that time you have to make it possible? It cannot be a vague idea.
So, like, for example, in case of building material, we know a material with which we can build a building and we know its strength and all. But, but now we're not sure कि वो building बनने के बाद it will be that stable or nothing, like something like that.
So there वो तो आपको एक बार testing करनी
So that can be patented.
हाँ, so that can be patented, but जो ये strength test अगर आप कह रहे हो, I think this is a lab work, which would be important for you to do anyhow before you start commercializing things. अगर patent हो भी जाता है, patent डाल भी देते हो composition के base पे, so there are composition patents, there are process patents, there are method patents, there are patents. So this will fall under composition patents. जहाँ we are talking about, say, the composition of your building material. So this could still go, but then and you may get a patent for it. That's okay. But जब आप commercialize करोगे, तो you don't want to risk people's life. So I think it is advisable that you should definitely test your composition before commercializing it. But from the sake of patent, go ahead and do it. That's okay.
Of course, what I meant to ask was, are there any basic rules or sets which, like, I can search?
Right. So search and read about something known as composition patents. Okay, how to get patents related to compositions, because as I get from your question, you want to put your protection or IP around the composition of this building material, right? And it would have, say, chemical 1, chemical 2, ingredient 3, ingredient 4, ingredient 5. So this all is basically the composition.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Sir, I have a question, sir. So
Yes.
I want to raise it that, for example, if I have an idea, to realize that idea, so under whose name will the patent be filed? Under my name or with the company's name? With I'm like collaborating to realize this idea that I have.
So your question was, the voice was cracking a little, but as I get it, the question was around what should be the name of the name, or should I file it on individual's name, or should I file it on a company's name, right? So if that's your
collaborating
question,
with some company.
So see, the idea is, if you're collaborating with a company, you need to put the inventors from both the companies, and you could be a co-owner of a patent also. So 2 companies can own a patent. How do you decide on the licensing amount? Is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? Is it 70-30? That is something that you need to decide internally. That if that patent is commercialized, this is how we are going to distribute the profit of it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm having a situation kind of thing. Like if I had opened a saloon, say XYZ saloon, and I'm starting up with a one branch, and I registered that saloon online with xyzsaloon.com. So what could be the best thing for it if I'm starting it with my partner, private limited, LLP, or partnership? Like, what could be best thing according to your opinion?
So once again, I may not be the best fit to give you a legal opinion, but I think most of the saloon owners or restaurant owners do often register it as a private limited company also. All you need is as I said, GSTN numbers and all those numbers. You should be okay in any of those types if you are incorporating a company. There could be laws, I think, which could govern the shops or other services differently. I would advise to please check with the CSCS. I don't want to misguide you here, but probably any of them should be okay for me. But I would seriously advise to check with a CA who's dealing specifically with saloons and restaurants.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So I think do we have a question? Do we have a question? We can take the last question and then we can close the session. Okay, sir, I think there are many questions, but some way we are restricted by time.
Mr. Harit, on behalf of Amity University, we would like to thank you. And I would personally apologize for disturbing your sleep and
No
taking
problem.
time off from, stealing some time off from your time when you had to take rest. But then, yes, I must tell you that the slide was so informative and so simple to understand. I mean, that was the beauty of the slide, that it was very, very simple to understand. I am sure that many of us must have jotted down the checklist of what to do when you are really having this idea of getting into startup. If you're thinking about it, then this presentation, we should take it as a way to go forward. Thank you so much for sparing your time, and in the times to come, we may again get back to you, and I hope that you will respond back to us with more valuable suggestions from your end. Thank you so much on behalf of all the participants. Thank you, participants, and I am sure that you must have found many useful things and a great takeaway from this session. Thank you once again.